The Story of Jiro by Kojin Shimomura, translated by Masahiro Nishiyama. About the author and a story of Jiro. Kojin Shimomura, the author of the story of Jiro, was born on 3rd October 1884 as the second son in a small village of Chitose-mura, located in the southeast of Saga Prefecture, Kyushu. His was a prominent family in the neighborhood. Soon after his birth, however, he was put out as a foster child to a schoolkeeper's family because his mother was too weak to feed him. When he came home after 4 years, he was to see his younger brother born during his adopted life. The youngest son seemed to be too favorite with his grandmother, while his own mother was very strict toward him. On the other hand, his family had been beginning to decline on account of his father's involvement in politics. In 1894, when he was 10, his mother died of tuberculosis at the age of 29. In 1898, he entered Saga Middle School at the second attempt, then went to Kumamoto High School in 1903. But in that year, his father was ruined financially and could not support him. Kojin almost gave up his schooling, but through his father's arrangement, he was adopted into a wealthy family so he could continue to attend his high school. In 1906, he entered Tokyo University to major in English literature and graduated in 1909. Then he enlisted in the Saga Regiment of the National Army as a volunteer for 1 year. He longed to go up to Tokyo again for further study of literature. Unfortunately for him, his adopted family also went bankrupt at that time. Kojin had to give up his dream, marry the daughter of his adopted family, and become a teacher of Saga Middle School at the age of 27. After 7 years, he was appointed vice principal of another middle school. Having served for about 10 more years as a principal at 2 middle schools, he was invited to serve as principal at a middle school in Taiwan. In 1929, he was appointed principal of Taihoku High School, Taiwan. In 1931, when he was 47 years old, he quit his career to give himself to youth education in Tokyo. He devoted himself to this task, teaming up with Yoshiharu Tazawa until he passed away on 20th April 1955 at the age of 71. As he was involved in his work, he continued to publish a lot of books, most of which dealt with social education. It was in 1936 that the story of Jiro appeared in serial form in a small magazine for the Japanese Young Men's Association. But the next year, in March, he had put an end to this novel at its 29th chapter because the trend of militarism was too strong for him to swim against. Patriotism-centered authorities criticized the author, saying that the hero boy was too ill-bred and lacked obedience in such a national emergency. However, Kojin Shimomura secretly went on writing till he finished it. In 1941, it was published by a small company and sold quite well. In December of the same year, it was made into a film to be released all over the country. the story of Jiro became a bestseller. An autobiographical novel, it was written for the purpose of making young parents become concerned about the problem of education and motherly love. His experience as an adopted child urged him to make young mothers and would-be mothers understand how important motherly love is in bringing up children. In the prologue of its first edition, he wrote that he had written a number of books so far, but he would choose the story of Jiro as the number one because he wanted to write this one very much and felt keenly the necessity of its publication. Chapter 1. Monkey Face. How a mistress irritates me, said Ohama, the nurse, sitting on the step of the kitchen. Yes, indeed, you're quite right, said Oito, the old housemaid with her pock-marked face aglow in front of the cooking stove. She's a little stern by nature, but her treatment this time is too bad. Just then, the paper door which divided the kitchen from the living room was opened. What are you chattering about? Said the mistress in a shrill voice. The old housemaid, however, turned a deaf ear to her, while Ohama looked straight back into the mistress's face with burning eyes. Ohama, the mistress shouted in anger. What makes you so obstinate? Kyoichi is the eldest son, so we can't entrust him to you very long. How many times do I have to explain it to you? Yes, ma'am, yes, Ohama retorted. It's always you that are right and always me that is in the wrong. Well, do I understand you? How ungrateful you are, said the mistress. Do you know who you are talking to? How can you say such a thing to me? But why mustn't I? Said Ohama. Wasn't it you that cheated me? Yes, you've cheated me, ma'am. I've cheated you, do you say? Haven't you? Said Ohama. You told me to bring Kyoichi, so I did. Then he was snatched away by grandmother, and you're pushing on me such a... Ha ha ha, so you're angry with me, aren't you? Said the mistress. Why shouldn't I be, ma'am? Said Ohama. I do have some human feelings, though I'm a petty nurse. So you don't want to take Jiro, my second son, as your nurse-selling, do you? Said the mistress. Ohama turned her face away and kept silent with a sullen look. What an obstinate woman you are, said the mistress. I've been imploring you to accept Jiro simply because I can't suckle him well, but you take mean advantage of my weakness. All right, now I know what to do. Say whatever you like, Ohama. Say no if you want to. I'll never ask you to nurse any child of mine again. But remember this, Ohama, I won't have anything to do with you anymore. If you come for rice, I'll have no ear to listen. I won't allow you to come here to see Kyoichi. The mistress shut the door behind her with a crash. Oh no, you're too hard on me, shouted Ohama, the nurse, to the closed door. Who's hard on you at all? Said Otami, the mistress behind the door. You're selfish, ma'am, Ohama protested. I've been taking good care of Master Kyoichi for almost 1 year because you asked me to. Then all at once you take him away from me and force on me such a what? Said Otami, the mistress, as she opened the door again, but the nurse was silent. Say it straight, Ohama. Well, well, said Oito, the old housemaid. I'll make her understand, so please, ma'am, please. What? You're going to persuade her? Said Otami scornfully. Don't be silly. You're always taking her side, though you're much older, aren't you? I can't believe in you. Otami scolded the old housemaid, to which she responded with a forced, humiliated smile, revealing her dirty teeth, which had been painted black but now were discolored here and there. After a time, a baby's crying was heard in the inner room. Giving a sullen look at them, Otami retreated. You won't be able to have it your own way, Ohama, said Oito. Why don't you give up Kyoichi and accept the new baby? You have the problem of the rice supply, don't you? No, I won't have a grain of rice from her anymore, said Ohama. I don't mind at all. I can understand you quite well, said old Oito. But if you don't take the second son, our mistress won't provide you with the rice. Besides, she'll keep you away from Kyoichi so that you can't see him again. Don't you mind it? Does she really mean that? Said Ohama with a worried look. I'm sure she does, said Oito. You're really unyielding, but the mistress is much more so, don't you know? Once she has decided to do something, she'll carry it out at all cost. Then Kyoichi will forget me, who've fed him at my own breast, said Ohama. Probably he will, said Oito. So isn't it wise for you to meet her halfway? Must I accept such a monkey-faced baby in place of lovely Kyoichi? Stop talking like that, said Oito. What if you should be overheard, Ohama? But isn't it true? Don't you think so? She said. I don't think the new baby is so ugly, though he's no match for Kyoichi, said old Oito. Kyoichi was born graceful and handsome indeed, said Ohama. But he'll come to like the second son as you nurse him, even if his face is like a monkey. Didn't I tell you to stop talking like that? Said Oito. What will you do if she overhears you? I won't care a bit, said Ohama again. No, I won't. Imagine what will happen to you if you go on like that, said Oito. It'll be the end of the world for you. Listen, Ohama, in the first place, you won't be able to see your favorite Kyoichi for the rest of your life. Can you put up with that? So you say I should take over the monkey face after all? Yes, do so, Ohama, said Oito. It'll be better for you. You also have the rice problem, don't you? Again, the rice. Didn't I tell you I wouldn't mind it at all? Said Ohama. I'm just coming round to accepting that ugly baby for the sake of my darling Kyoichi. Do you understand? What a generous woman you are, said Oito. But anyway, it will save my face for our mistress. Let me go and tell her before you change your mind. The old maid stepped into the inner room to meet Otami and managed to settle the dispute, though she was cursed and scolded pretty hard by the mistress. Then the second baby, named Jiro, was taken over as nursling by Ohama. Did the nurse continue to dislike the second son for his ugly face? On the contrary, she liked him soon. Otami, however, seemed to be quite indifferent to Jiro, though she had been very concerned about Kyoichi while she put him out to Ohama. Was it because Jiro was the second son, or he looked like a monkey, as the nurse had pointed out? In any case, Ohama could not approve of the mistress's attitude towards Jiro, which only urged her to stand by him. One day, Ohama visited her mistress, the first in a long time, to show her how the baby was growing. Thanks to your good care, Monkey Face seems to be growing well, doesn't he? Said the mistress. Monkey Face? Shouted Ohama in protest. Am I in the wrong to call him that? Said Otami, the mistress. But isn't he your own child, ma'am? Said Ohama to her. Yes, he is, but I was told by Oito that you had given him that name, she said with a cynical smile. My goodness, it was just on the spur of the moment, said Ohama. I didn't stick to my first impression very long. So you think he has become a little more human-like these days, don't you? How you embarrass me, said Ohama to her mistress. Dear me, are you shedding tears? Said Otami. I'm sorry, Ohama. I just wanted to play a trick on you. Forgive me. There is a limit to everything, she snapped at her mistress. If you think like that, I also know what to do, ma'am. In great anger, she went away with Jiro in her arms and would not come back to the mistress in spite of her repeated requests. Neither did she ask for the monthly rice supply. At last, Otami gave in and went to see the nurse by herself. The name of Monkey Face was not brought up in their conversation. Far from that, the mistress coaxed Ohama with this episode. Jiro was born just at the time of the rise of a full moon on the 15th of August, she said, so I'm sure he'll grow up to be a great man. This compliment was good enough to make Ohama recover her humor. Whenever they met each other after that, the rise of a full moon on the 15th of August was mentioned. Jiro was born on the very night of the 15th of August with a full moon. Was that a sign of good luck to the baby? The reader will learn about it in the following chapters.